All right, welcome, folks, to Church on the Hills podcast, On This Hill.
Here we are on this
got
hill.
Bruce back with us. You were on a little bit of a vacation. But
It was great.
Glad you're home.
Yeah, it was a good time. Did a road trip, 3,300 miles.
Oh, that is a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and not in your own vehicle.
No, my son's vehicle, and through the Southwest, so Southern California.
I didn't ask, who was in the car? Was it just you and Linda and Luke?
And our grandson. So,
Okay.
yeah, delivering a vehicle to Austin, Texas.
Yeah. If you haven't met Luke, go back a couple podcasts and you'll find him.
Right before we left, had him on.
Yeah, you'll find him in
fun.
here. Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you had a good time, but I'm glad you're back in here with us.
Glad to be back in my own bed. I like sleeping in my own bed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just a little bit after this podcast comes out, we've got a team going down to Mexico, so they'll be making that trip, but not by a car.
Yeah.
But they'll be going a little bit farther south.
How many people are going on that trip?
I think we've got 48 or 49 right now. Yeah, a few people had to drop out, and a few people are jumping back in. So
Nice.
we'll land somewhere right around 50 people.
Yeah,
and excited this time because while we always do some house building, we're also going to do a VBS down there this time as well. So that sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
So be praying for our Mexico team.
Yeah. Summertime. I love summer. Everything's a little bit different.
It is.
Outside the routine a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted to bring a conversation into here that we've been having a little bit amongst ourselves. Actually, it's maybe an ongoing conversation we have a lot of. But
Right.
we were talking to the rest of the pastoral team about it yesterday, about opportunities and what does it mean to jump on an opportunity versus... Not that they always have to be pitted against one another, but like having a 5 or 10 year plan and saying, this is where we're going. So there's two different styles of leadership. One let's say the planning one can sound very, you're casting a picture of the future that you've imagined, hopefully with God, and then you're going to drive there. That's where we're going.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
And here's the steps we're going to take, and here's the matrix with which we'll be able to judge whether we've succeeded or failed. Where opportunistic leadership is a little bit more, what is the opportunity that God's put in front of me today, right now, and how do we take advantage of that?
Yeah. I think we were commenting about a book that an author described it as the difference between a sailboat and a motorboat. They are both boats, and they both get you where you want to go, but they different methodologies.
Yeah. I'll give you the name of the book and the author. It's Roger Parrott. Opportunity Leadership. He says, stop planning and start getting results. This was published in 2022, but he is a university president, and he has led that way since about 2002. So he has some experience in this, and the university name is Belhaven University.
Okay.
And so a lot of his examples come out of that, where he'd spent many years saying, okay, board, okay, donors, here's where I'm going, here's the vision, get behind it, and this is where we're going to be.
Yeah.
But a lot of his stories, he said, at the end of 5 years, you kind of stop talking about the 5-year vision because you didn't get there exactly.
Right.
And you just repitch a new 5-year vision to get people excited again. And he said, when he finally let go of that kind of planning and instead said, okay, God, what opportunities are right in front of me that I should take advantage of? That's when he really saw change.
Yeah. You and I both have spent a significant amount of time, part of our lives, outside of our country, outside of our culture, American culture. And I mean, you and I were both born in the U.S., and so that's kind of what we grew up in. But when you get outside our U.S. culture, it's one thing to describe, I don't know, something innocuous like spaghetti, how to cook spaghetti, or how to mow a lawn. But when you think about building the kingdom and you're partnering with a living God, then the culture that should trump all cultures is kingdom culture, right? And you have to wonder, when you look at the life of Jesus, did Jesus have a 3-year plan?
Yeah.
Did he just was every day like, I only do what the Father tells me to do, or I do what I see the Father doing?
Yeah, it seems like the Bible is devoid of that kind of corporate planning.
Yeah.
That says, here's the slogan, Here's the 5 points. They all start with the same letter.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And here's the results that
Yeah.
if you hire me, you're going to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, the very
know.
formula sort of driven. But at the
Yeah.
same time, Colossians says he holds all things together by the word of his power. So
Yeah.
God's obviously not absent or flippant or just spontaneous every morning,
Yeah.
doing what comes to his mind. He's I would say, the ultimate long-term thinker.
He is.
But he's trusted us with different styles, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I love this guy's book, and I like what he's saying, but also I realize it kind of fits with both you and I and our personality a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know there are guys that are like, I feel like God told me I'm going to plant 10 churches in
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
And then they work to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I don't despise that. I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful. They've heard from God, go for it. But I think there's also something in just thinking like, well, okay, I would have never thought this, but there seems to be an opportunity to run this program, like just laid in front of us right now. And one of his descriptions is he said, he didn't outline exactly what it was, but he said, I had an opportunity in front of me that could bring many more students to my campus and many more dollars to my campus. But it would only work if I paired with another university, like not one affiliated with me. We just needed someone else on the team. And he said the first university I called, didn't name it. He said he said I couldn't even get a phone call with the president. And I'm the president of a university, but he couldn't even get a phone call with the president because he's busy. He's working a plan.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't give him 20 minutes. He says the next one said yes. And it was not a part of the plan. It was completely outside.
But he went for it.
He said, and because we were both yeses, we got a few $1 million and quite a few more students than we would have ever got. We just struck while the iron was hot.
I think part of the problem when it becomes like a conflict or when it becomes contentious is when you sort of demand it be one or the other.
Yes.
But why can't it be both and? I mean, the example I thought of while you were talking, it's really close to home, would be, I want to raise a family. I want to be a good father. Well, there's a measure of that I think I can plan. There's certain things I can do as far as a secure home and a career that pays the bills and the school my children are going to attend and vacations. But then there's a part of that that's new every morning, right? Because we're constantly changing human beings.
Think of the part of that that's like, if I want to be a godly father, okay, well, let's make a plan to have family devotions. It's great. You absolutely should do that.
Yeah.
But also, as you and I'm sure both know, there's family devotions, and then there's times when kids actually want to talk.
Yeah.
And you should have that family devotion. But if you can't stop what you're doing when your kid opens up, and hey, Dad, I actually have a question right now. Well, could you save it for tonight? Could you? No.
Yeah.
You have a opportunity in front of you. It's a window, and it's going to close. I've seen that with both of my kids. Like, oh, there's a moment right here, a teachable moment, and it's not in my schedule. It's not something I've planned, but it is available to me. So I need to make a plan to teach my kids, but I also need to change my plan for when my kids are ready to learn.
I think the scripture is full of examples that describe kind of what we're talking about. I mean, God, you look in the Old Testament, for example, God gave the children of Israel coming out of Egypt a very detailed pattern for the tabernacle, a detailed pattern for sanitation and for cooking and for the priesthood. I mean, incredibly, actually, quite boring in a way when you read all the things the way he did it.
Yeah, there's a minutia and details.
Yeah, but then at the same time, they would pick the tabernacle, a.k.a. the presence of God. They'd just pick it up and walk through the wilderness with it. So it's funny, again, it's not either or, it's both and. But I think that's kind of a picture, I think, really of even the Christian life, my own walk with the Lord, that part of me, he lets me in on. Part of it, he lets me in on. And part of it, he just says, hey, my mercies are new every morning. And I think it keeps us from maybe in the bigger picture, depending on the plan rather than God. We
really like to promote that our young people get involved in missions and maybe consider a lifetime of missions as a calling. And both of us have led schools that trained people in discipleship to do missions. And one of the things I keep thinking about is the difference between preparation and planning. And with young people that come to me and say, hey, I feel a call of God to go to the mission field, and I'd like to do this training school. Typically for us, because we have a lot of this in our community, they'll say, I want to go to Youth of the Mission and do a DTS. And I think sometimes I throw them, and I don't mean to, and this is a little bit of a blanket statement, but for most of them, I will tell them, man, I would love to support you in that. I think you're probably right. That is a call of God in your life. Why don't you consider doing a couple years of college first? Or just maybe you're not a college kid. Maybe that's not the path for you. Why don't you go get the best job you can get and work as hard as you can for at least a couple years? And when they ask me why, I say, well, as someone who spent time training people for missions, I found that the very best young people that came to me to do missions had already prepared themselves a little bit by either learning the value of hard work and what a dollar is worth, or they've prepared their mind in scholastics in some way, and they've kind of figured out like, oh, this is who I am, this is how I work. Like either I could really see myself as a nurse or as a teacher or as an entrepreneur. And then self-discovery. And then you go do the DTS, and you're ready to go. Like you get a little bit more training now in discipleship, and you're like, I could be a nurse in this country. I could be a doctor. I could be I could build wells. Whatever it takes. And that's preparation. So you're preparing your life to be usable by God.
Right. I think it's funny that word. That's preparation. I mean, in both cases, whether you're long-term preparing or even preparing to operate in the short term, they're both valid. They both are. So like, again, back to the children of Israel, they had to have a long-term sort of mentality. Hey, it's going to be a while before we get to the promised land. But at the same time, like I said earlier, every day was a new day. Manna was new every day, and the word of the Lord was new every day. Challenges were new every day. And I think that's a reflection of real life. And they serve one another. They're not in opposition with one another. They serve one another well.
Nicole taught the last 2 weeks. The previous week she taught the South Campus, and this week I got that backwards. Previous week she taught at Kaiser, then she taught at South. Either way, she taught on the same topic, and it was singleness. Right. Kind of a theology of singleness, which we don't talk a lot about in the church. We talk a lot about relationship, and we'll hit on singleness, but she really dove deep in a way that we don't typically hear in the church. And one of the things that she said that really struck me was, if you want something, pursue it. And she's talking about in singleness, if you want to be married, pursue marriage. It's okay. Right. Don't just sit back and wait. Well, God's going to drop some single guy right in front of me and then say, thus saith the Lord, here is your husband. But she said, put yourself in, situations and places, prepare yourself to be married. And then she gave as an example, she said, if I told Jason, hey, I don't want to be a pastor anymore. I want to be a counselor. But I did no preparation to be a counselor, and I just waited for someone to hire me as a counselor. You wouldn't expect me to ever get that job. And I think that's part of this. Okay, how do I prepare myself for an opportunity to be ready to take it when it comes along?
Isn't that the beauty of it, though? I mean, I think there's an opportunity on both sides of the road, and there's a ditch on both sides of the road. That I here's my goal. Here's where I feel like I'm wired to be or to do. Here's my giftings. This is what I know about myself. But unless I, again, prepare or pursue it, it may come to fruition, but maybe never the way God intended it.
You got any examples? Like I can think of a few, several from my life when we were. I'd say one of the first times it ever occurred to me that's a valid way to live life. It's not just floating through life. Was when Trish and I were still really young, and her dad was pastoring in North Salem, and suddenly a couple Ukrainian kids came to this church. Just literally little kids, walked into the church not speaking a word of English, and just started talking to us in what was Russian at the time. This before the Ukrainians were speaking Ukrainian. They were speaking Russian because they were made to. And none of us could even I don't know, what language is this? And kind of followed them home and found oh, look, there's this small community of Ukrainian people that have moved to the city, really just a few families at the time, and thought, there's an opportunity here. like here's a people that have come to us. We didn't even go to them. We didn't plan how do we reach Ukraine. We just said, okay. So we started working with these Ukrainian families and then going to Ukraine on mission trips and using their contacts. And there was the church didn't say, here's a 5-step plan to reach Ukraine for Christ. They just saw an opportunity in front of them and took it.
And I think that's how, I think biblically, if you look at the, you study the movement of the Old Testament and even the New Testament, there's this sense of I'm doing what I know how to do, but I'm also very much aware there's a much bigger picture that hasn't unfolded yet, and God would lead them to the next chapter. Like a good example of that is Acts chapter 1. Jesus gives them the Great Commission. You're going to be my witnesses, Judea, Samaria, uttermost parts of the earth. Wait here. So in that waiting, another page turned, so to speak, another chapter unfolded. Holy Spirit falls. And then another chapter unfolds. Peter preaches and 3,000 people get saved. Who could plan that?
No.
Hey, I'm going to preach today and 3,000 people are going to get saved. Get ready, with the coffee
We've
drinks.
all planned that many times and it hasn't happened.
And so I just love that about, again, the Christian life. And I love that about God, that God is the author of the big picture. You and I do weddings all the time. And we talk about how two people stand at an altar in front of witnesses and they commit everything they know about themselves to everything they know about the other person. The challenge, though, is that we're ever-changing people. The same person that I committed to 40-some years ago, or the person I committed to 40-some years ago, is not the same person, and I'm not either.
No, you would hope they would change and grow.
Because if you don't change, dear Lord, how boring would that be, right? And so I just think, but therein I think is both the tension and the beauty, right? I remember years ago, we were down in Latin America and we were sitting in a conference room and it was mostly North Americans. It was early on. And we had one of those year at a glance calendars, those laminate calendars where you could write on it with a dry erase. And we had it spread out on the table and we were looking, and one of our colleagues came in and she was a Hispanic lady, and she was a university professor. So she was sharp. She had to be to teach at her level. And she said, "What are you guys doing?" We said, "Oh, we're just kind of." It was January. We're kind of planning the year, and she chuckled and said, "That's just so American. This is so like you guys." And we laughed. We had a good laugh about it because
you don't even realize it's just who you are. You're just doing
who we are. But we worked together. So she loved and our, I don't know, I'll call it organizational skill or whatever, served the bigger picture, but so did their spontaneity and so did their passion. And everything we brought to the table when it was combined made for a beautiful thing.
Think about, I keep thinking about David, the shepherd boy David. So he didn't plan to go out and kill a giant one day. Right.
That wasn't like on his list of things to do.
He was just given the assignment, go feed your brothers and tell us how they're doing. But then here's an opportunity. No one else is taking the opportunity too.
What's the reward for the guy that kills this uncircumcised Philistine?
Which, if you think about everyone had the same opportunity. Right. But it took a David to say yes to it.
To see it and to say it.
Everyone else said, that's not an opportunity. That's a death sentence. That's crazy. I'll never forget when I came to join you at this, it was basically a church plant here in Kaiser. My pastor at the time, who was an amazing godly man, but he just told me hey, just so you know, that church building is a graveyard for churches. Everything that's ever tried to happen there dies. And I thought, well, I don't want to be unwise. Maybe it will kill us, but also Jonathan's armor bearer, maybe we win.
Let's see what the Lord would do.
Let's see what the Lord would do. Let's try it. And I think, with David, he not only did he say yes to an opportunity, he was prepared for it. He's like, I've killed a lion, I've killed a bear. I know how to use this weapon. I'm gonna go. Let's see. I mean, the reward, the risk is high, but think about the reward. And I think it's guys who keep their eyes on the reward that I love. That don't just say, hey, you know how much we could lose if this doesn't work, but say, do you know how much we could gain for the kingdom if this works? That would, we have an opportunity here for not just line by line growth, but we could do exponential growth in this one move.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he saw and what I get excited about.
There's a phrase I love. It's not exactly in the Bible, word for word, but the phrase is a holy imagination. I think a holy, and now it's actually because actually Tozer, I think it's Tozer who sort of riffs on this, but he says a holy imagination is not me thinking up my ideas and asking God to work the miracle. A holy imagination is tapping into, and I think that's what happened with David. David saw a giant that everybody else saw, but David also saw, hey, the Lord has delivered me from the lion and the bear, and he's going to deliver me from this Philistine. And I think that's the hard part for us, because in our culture, we focus so much on the metrics of measuring and, dollars and time and people and seats and so forth. Yeah. But holy imagination sees that and way, way more. And I think you see even outside of, I was just in, on the road trip, ended in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is famous for a lot of things like barbecue and cowboys and pickup trucks, but music. And we saw all that. But one of the things I saw, and Texas is pretty conservative, we all know that. But driving down the road, these friends of ours down there work for Tesla. And we went by the factory, the Tesla factory, and everybody knows what Tesla's about. They're cutting edge, future electric vehicles and power packs and SpaceX and all those kinds of things. But the building, the factory itself, just architecturally looked like a spaceship. It was this, the contrast of this is kind of Texas and this is Tesla was jarring, but it was like inspirational, because a guy, like Elon Musk, think about him what you will, or your opinion of him. The fact is, he lives in the future. I mean, he's trying to get us to, he's trying to colonize Mars. Well, he's already left the electric car business behind, so to speak. He's left that to his minions. But he's trying to colonize Mars. He believes that's our hope. We're going to live there one of these days.
Yeah, I mean, he named his company after Nikola Tesla, who was also one of those guys. He just thought outside the box. He couldn't quite be contained.
We desperately need those kinds of people. Now, of course, ego gets in there, or why you do it, your motives. But I mean, I think as believers, if we really believe that the kingdom of God and the message of the kingdom can actually change not just a human life, but a family or a city or a culture or whatever, we should be the most entrepreneurial people in the world. Yeah,
and I think about the Elon Musk thing a lot. Of course, on one hand, because I grew up loving science fiction and reading that and just kind of thinking about, what if we could colonize, all that. What if you could have a spaceship and go to another planet? All of this. But when you dig down with him and ask him why he's doing what he's doing, in his worldview, the worldview is there are extinction events that happen on our planet on a regular basis. And he said scientifically, it doesn't make any sense to keep all of your breeding pairs in one area. Literally, he's thinking about how to keep
using that language.
And so I want to make sure that the human race survives the next extinction event, be that a meteor that comes plummeting to Earth and kills us, like he believes dinosaurs died, or some other ecological collapse that happens. And so we want to make sure. So I bring that up to say that is a purely time, chance, and matter secular view of the future of humanity. We have a different story that we believe to be true about where humanity is going and what the real extinction level events are, and they are the death of the soul, the sin that kills us all. And so how much more should we be thinking, man, how do we save humanity? How do we keep this extinction event of sin that carries everyone to the grave and hell? How do we push that back and save as many as possible? Now, obviously, that is done in Jesus Christ alone and not through our planning. But shouldn't we have a holy imagination and say, what if God wanted to save this many people this way, through this crazy opportunity, this window of opportunity that's just opened up for us?
There's a fascinating article. We were talking about it a little bit earlier. I mentioned it. It's a conversation, an interview where Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, is interviewing Elon Musk about
Yeah.
his vision for the future,
Yeah.
and it's a fascinating back and forth between these two powerhouses, and
Yeah.
but Musk makes this like mic drop statement. He says humanity is a type of biological bootloader for AI, and so he's got this giant picture. But when I read the article, I thought,
Yeah, listeners, do you know what that means? He's saying we basically exist to create AI.
Yeah.
That AI is the next evolution
Right.
of
Yeah.
intelligence.
Yeah, and we're at the bottom. We're at the underside of the chain,
Yeah.
But gosh, what if, it's incredible because he's operating in this realm of mystery and unfolding and so forth. But man, what if God's already been there? What if God's waiting for us to get there? What if there really is a creator of the universe who holds all things together by the word of his power, and he's allowing himself to be discovered. He's allowing his own plan to unfold. Well, what I'm saying is, according to Musk, we're creating, and according to the scripture, we're walking into the future with God.
Isn't that interesting? Ray Kurzweil's been saying something like this for quite a long time, and he believes in a singularity that's coming, where artificial intelligence. And he was saying this before artificial intelligence was even close to being created. And now I would argue that what we have in front of us on our computers is a pale imitation of what could happen in artificial intelligence. But he has always said, well, my generation or the generation right behind me will live forever. We're going to live forever because we're going to create a super intelligence that will save us.
Yeah, that will sustain us.
Yeah, that will keep us alive forever. Or we'll upload our consciousness into the cloud somehow, and that consciousness will live forever. And it's so fascinating to me because it's so close to, you're so close to understanding eternity and the soul.
Yeah.
And, and
being transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you're reaching for the fruit of eternal life. But,
right. But our immortality is built into us.
Yeah, but we've been cut off from that because we've now, in a sinful state, to live forever in a sinful state is, well, it sounds like hell.
Yeah, not very attractive.
Yeah, so we really need to first be redeemed before you bite of that fruit. Elon Musk and Ray Kurzweil and all the others who are trying to create that opportunity.
Yeah, I'd love to see some really well thought and well spoken thoughts on that. And I think you're going to see that. I think in theology circles, there's people that are writing about it. But I think it was. Again, back to Tozer, I think he said, we failed to see it as wonderful because we have ceased to wonder about it. And what he meant by that is we've reduced the incredible beauty and mystery of the gospel to just routines and traditions that and there's no risks involved. There's no real creativity. It's just kind of rote and routine. And I think, frankly, that's why a large number of people have walked away from church, because they fail, or the church has failed to present the beauty and the wonder of the gospel, and the creativity that should go along with it, the forethought, the intelligence, and all those things that sometimes that have been labeled as worldly or whatever. You look at the early church, well, not the early, but 500-600 years ago, the church was on the cutting edge of science. But there was a huge pushback of, well, that's you've gone into heresy, and I'm sure there was heresy, but
and many times
misunderstood.
Also, many times in history, the church has been on the cutting edge of beauty. The most beautiful art, the most beautiful buildings, the most beautiful poetry and literature.
Provocative at times, cutting, again, misunderstood. By definition, leadership to some degree, and even creativity, is always going to have an element of misunderstanding to it, because that artist or that leader, he's out in front of people. That's what makes his work valid. That's what makes a leader a leader. If a leader was back with the pack, he wouldn't be leading. He could be part of the pack. And so I think there's always an element of like, I'm not sure I'm with you. I'm not sure I'm there yet.
Yeah, I would advocate too, people that are listening to this, take it out of the realm of just the church as an institution,
right,
or even the body that you
sure,
you fellowship with, and ask yourself the question: what are the opportunities in front of me that God has presented? They're unique to me. Maybe they've only shown up in front of me. Nobody else has this opportunity, but I have it. And I think there's always going to be a few. Like, say you're a married person. There's no one else is going to have the opportunity to husband your wife or
yeah,
the way that you can. But there's also all those around you, like whether it be the business world or the social world. Like, what is the opportunity that's in front of you that, and maybe it's an evangelism opportunity. Maybe it's an entrepreneurial opportunity. It's an ability to create jobs that nobody else could have created, but God's gifted you a particular way
of seeing things.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, I was struggling to put into words what I was trying to say, but I think creativity has always created tension in the church because creativity by its nature hasn't been discovered yet. So
it's outside the box, and we like things to be inside the box.
And artists are oftentimes the ones who are hearing things and seeing things that no one else sees. That's what makes them artists. And I just think I'd love to see a revival or a renaissance of creativity within the church. And I think oftentimes the reality is the churches, they're run by not so creative people. They're run by managers rather than leaders. Yeah. And there's certainly a place in our world for managers, but the leaders are the ones who take us places we've never been. Managers manage, and it's great.
Yeah, the corporatization of Christianity.
Yeah.
Is you and I both have Eugene Peterson as a mentor and one of our favorite authors, and man, does he really is pathologically opposed to the corporate world and corporate speak entering into
corporate methodology.
Yeah, I was joking with Joe today because I overheard a conversation between him and one of the other youth leaders, and he said something about I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he said, "Oh yeah, let's loop it back around and figure that out, or put a pin in it, or something." I'm like, Joe, you sound so corporate. Yeah, you're like, gonna start talking about synergy now, and we just laughed about it because there's words that are valuable and useful in the kingdom that came to us through the corporate world, but I think the methodology that comes from the corporate world is rarely going to be of any long-term use to the kingdom because it is built from the ground up on different principles. And the principles of the kingdom, the reason why it is often called the upside down kingdom is because Christ's way of servant leadership is so radically opposed to the other kind of leadership that you find in corporations, in athletics, and everything else. That it's usually vehemently opposed, by corporations, where instead we've adopted their way of doing things, which I think is a mistake.
When you read the New Testament and the birth of the church, you see a human element of Jews and Gentiles and the politics of the day with Rome or ancient Greece or whatever. But then there's an unmistakable divine element of God showing up and doing things that no one had any idea what he was up to. They were just one day at a time. And I just think that's the beauty of the gospel, that the creator of the universe participates, invites us into the story, and allows us to participate with what he's doing.
I would encourage encourage listeners. There's a few simple things that I think artists do that sometimes I'll attempt just as a way to open up my mind. There's something called the daily pages, where you just start writing freely. You don't even have an end in mind. Just start writing and see what comes out. Yeah. Or sketching or just looking at something the way an artist looks at it. I find it fascinating, and I think I think worthwhile. But I would encourage those that listen, hey, what would it look like to have a conversation with God, to ask him to open up your eyes to unique opportunities placed in front of you? And like I said, they could sound as spiritual as evangelizing and praying for someone for their healing. Or it could seem as, well, is that even a kingdom thing to start this business?
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, it is.
Yeah. I was listening years ago to an interview with a very well-known author, a very prolific author. He'd written a dozen books, half of them on the Times bestseller list. And the question that the interviewer posed to him was, what inspires you to write? What inspires you in your craft? And he said three things that I thought was fascinating. He said, I get inspired when I'm out in creation. So he lived in Colorado, and he was a trekker, he was a hiker, he was out in the mountains all the time. So he said, and being in creation inspires, it's like breathes. That word inspire is a breathing picture, right?
Yeah.
Inspire, breathe into. And then he said, I get inspired when I'm around creativity. And when I'm around other creative forms, music, literature, art, whatever that would be. And then he said romantic love. I thought, well, that's an interesting third thing. But all three of those things have an element of I don't know if the right word would be mysticism or unknown or mystery, but it's certainly not algebra.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's certainly not
Right.
pouring concrete. They're abstract.
Yeah, it
Creation,
uses a different
creativity.
part of our soul or our brain or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So I just wonder sometimes, even as believers, that we, like you said, taking advantage of opportunity, what would it look like for me to step out of my box, my box of theology, my box of experience, my box of my ethnicity? I mean, the boxes are there. How they got there, we were born into them or raised in them. But what would it look like if I was to step out of my box, walk around downtown on a Saturday night?
Yep.
I'll visit a different church, try a different trade. Read a book you never would read on your own. Maybe it's even a nonfiction or a fiction book.
I try to pick up hobbies that do that. I know everyone's phone has a camera on it, but I bought a little camera so I wouldn't take my phone and just go take a few pictures and see. Like maybe it goes nowhere for me, but also maybe it makes me look at something a different way.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, just like you say, getting out in the nature. Maybe it's just a walk. It could just be a walk.
Yeah. Some of we were talking before we started, but I want to say this too, is some of the most inspirational people, without a question, in my life have been people that were edgy, I guess, if I can put it that way. And I'm not talking about edgy in the sense of morality. Some are, but I think just edgy in the sense of, I love that you think differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of the races and the beauty of the nations, because we can look at people and see a common humanity, but I love the way you cook. I love the way you look at life. I love the way you do your family. I love the way you do community. And I just think the other end of that spectrum is just being around people that think like me and talk like me. And that's an echo chamber.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I think the beauty of the body of Christ is maybe the only thing I have in common with the person that I'm next to in the body of Christ is that we're both saved by the same God.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we might have very different ways of doing things or seeing the world. But if I could start from the commonality, the most important thing about me is that I'm a child of God. Then all the rest of that stuff can be a lot less important and can be complementary as opposed to division.
Yeah.
We have in common the same Father, and so how do we relate to one another in our differences of I'm German, you're Latin.
Yeah. Don't you see this right now? I mean, as we're doing this podcast, the World Cup's going on.
Yeah.
The semifinals. I think is it France is playing Spain. But in the World Cup and in the soccer world, you just see you hear a lot of conversation about the beautiful game. And so this game of 11 men kicking a ball around on a field brings millions of people together. But yet, even in the observing and watching the game, you see these differences, the way a certain team will play, the way Argentina plays versus the way Germany would play. And I just think it's the coolest metaphor because it's true. It's a beautiful game. I mean, but it's just a game. But the idea that we're different, and that's not wrong. You and I have a man that we've used many times over the years, his material, but that's his favorite line in marriage counseling. It's not wrong. It's just different. Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's a great question. It's not wrong. It's just different. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, I hope this is a fruitful conversation to you. I hope there's some challenge there for you as well, that you would you consider asking God, like, hey, God, what would it take to break me out of my plan? Or maybe submit my plan to the opportunity that's in front of me. Again, not that there's anything wrong with planning, but it could also blind your eyes to the immediate opportunity. So just be asking God that question, and if you're brave enough, report back to us.
Yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we'd love to hear you.
Tell us about your journey outside the box.
Yeah, when you see us on Sunday or something else, just say, hey, I was inspired to jump on this opportunity because of the conversation we had, and let us know what it is. We'd love to hear back.
Talk to somebody you might not normally talk to.
Yep. Yeah, like Bruce. People don't normally talk to him.
I don't get a lot of conversation.
That's not true. All right. Well, thanks, folks. Hey, there's going to be a slight hiatus of podcasts for a couple weeks with our team gone to Mexico and other things, but we'll pick right back up in a couple weeks. Expect to find us there. In the meantime, man, we'd love to see you on Sunday. Don't forget that there's going to be a Riverfront Sunday. That is the first Sunday in August at 10 o'clock in the Riverfront.
Right
both
downtown.
Campuses, right downtown.
We'll all be together.
And there are plenty of opportunities there. When you have church outside of the building, you are just full of opportunities to share the gospel, to feed somebody.
Yeah. Join us. It's a great party.
Yep.
We just out in the open air. We have great, our La Fuente guys cook us a wonderful Mexican meal, and there's lots to share. And bring a lawn chair and bring a friend.
Yep. All right. Thanks, friends. We'll see you soon. Bye.